All right. Hi, Denny. How's it going?
Good, thanks. How are you, Dorian?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. I'd just like to thank you again, for making the time to come and talk with us today. My name's Dorian, for those of you joining us for the first time. It's really nice to finally get the chance to meet you. I always think it's cool to look someone up and then finally get the chance to actually have a conversation about the business. Welcome to the Next Gen podcast. I think first things first, can you just introduce yourself and your business idea so that people listening can get a chance to meet you?
Sure. My name's Deni. I'm 17, and I'm the founder of Dogadvisor, which is an AI company that, put simply, makes owning a dog as easy as loving one. We have more than 150 articles on any topic of dog ownership, which we've made super simple for you to digest. And we have an AI chatbot, Max, which has saved the lives of 4 dogs.
Wow, I like that you know the stats off the top of your head. That's interesting. I'm definitely going to get around to that later. Dog Advisor, really cool sounding concept. Is there some sort of story or origin that started this idea for this app?
Yeah. I was walking with my friend. He just got a dog, and he was telling me that he was struggling to find information on how to take care of it. So I went back home and I Googled and I tried to find obsessively hundreds and hundreds of blog sites, and I just wanted one that could really make it really easy to own that dog and to go through all of the topics you might need, like feeding it and exactly what you need. And I kept finding that every single site I went to had paragraphs and paragraphs of dense content, and it was basically impossible to find the information that you really needed. So I thought, why didn't I create my own source? Something that was super easy for you to understand. You could really quickly in a few seconds find out just what you need to. And most importantly, it's something you can trust. It's not a side blog for a company that's trying to desperately promote their own pet food, but it really is something that's there exclusively for people like you who just got a dog and you really don't know where to start.
That's great. And it's such an interesting origin story. How long ago did this happen? Because you're only 17 now.
I was 16 when I started it. It was on the 24th of August, 2024.
Wow. I like how you remember the date off the top of your head.
Yeah.
That shows the passion. I like it. Bring us way back, Was this something that you always knew you were going to get into? Were you always, sort of a lover of animals? Was this the field you wanted to get into? Was it, app development, something that you've been interested in since a young age?
To be honest, I kind of surprised myself because I really never thought about it before. But I did think that, obviously, as someone who might also be considering getting a dog in the future, I kind of thought that it was a big enough problem that I kind of felt like I had to do my part to try and help my friend, but also people just like him.
Right, I love that. And how did you, decide that an app was the best way to do this? Or if I recall correctly from my research, it started as a blog, right? So how did you find that to be the best course of action instead of, just sort of passing along this information to your friend who just got this dog?
I kind of thought that passing it along would be a good idea, but I wanted it to be far more accessible than that. And I thought, well, if my friends suffer from it, I know probably hundreds of thousands of millions of people around the world have also probably had that issue. So I thought that perhaps the best solution was to really make it as publicly available as I could. And the solution for that was really starting off with a website and a blog, because it seemed to be the fastest way that anyone, mobile, desktop, iPad, or whatever you're using, you can really quickly access it instead of going through the hassle of downloading an app and you're not really sure what's about to happen and everything can go wrong.
That makes a ton of sense. And so what were some of the first steps, that you took at the beginning of this journey? Because, as you said, this wasn't exactly something that you knew you were always going to be interested in. Did you have to, learn website development? Did you have to do all this research into the world of dogs? What were the first few steps that you took there?
Yeah, it was, I kind of started off with just the foundation. So I stripped away all of the dog content for then. And I started off with what's the best way that I can bring information to someone really quickly. And I found the most obvious one was a bullet point. But bullet points also have their own downsides. They aren't detailed enough, and it can often, if you see hundreds of them, it's just a bit too daunting. So I really went down for a month to try and find the best design I could. And that really consisted of each separate issue or article distilled just to 10 key bullet points, the really quick insight that you need in bold, and then you can read the rest of the content in normal font if you just prefer to go that extra sort of depth. And once we had that foundational design down, we then started focusing on how can we actually start adapting this for all of the different environments that you might go into as a dog owner.
And those first steps you took, and then creating the business, was that sort of like a scary experience, taking that sort of leap of faith? I mean, granted, I guess you were doing it for a very like kind reason, like to help your friend and also to help people all over the place, but still like taking that extra step and like being vulnerable and like showing this product off to people, was that sort of like scary, or were you excited to do it?
It was, I think it was a mix of both. I was really excited, but I felt pretty terrified. I'm not a vet, but I would say that having on each separate topic, like feeding your dog, I've gone through like hundreds of articles until I can't see anymore. So I'd consider myself to know quite a bit about that topic. But it did feel a bit scary just putting it out in the wild. And initially I didn't really put a name to it, and I didn't say that I founded it. But I found the most challenging bit was really trying to gain that credibility. And that was what I was kind of afraid of. Because if you just see this random blog and you really don't know like anything about it, are you necessarily going to trust it? And it was a really like difficult roadblock that we had to overcome.
Yeah, and that sort of leads me into my next question perfectly, is just like the idea of credibility and like being so young and not being a vet or anything like that. Did you have to sort of like go through other people, or is the app solely dedicated off of just like web research and things that basically people could already find online, but streamlined more so to like a simple app or website for them?
Yeah, it was mostly the second one. We were thinking about sort of foundationally, what kind of content do people trust? And that's obviously going to be expert opinions from vets and their own blog posts, but it might also be from a really big conglomerate that might know a lot about the certain issue that it has a certain expertise in. So it was really about sort of going through those sites which people trust and the resources that they would normally go to, and bringing that all together to distill each topic into 10 key like things that you need to know. Because obviously there are a lot of different ways you could go about this. You could go on one of those sites and you'll read the paragraphs and you might not get everything you need. Or you could ask something like Gemini or ChatGPT, but there is a really, really strong risk that it might pull data from one of the wrong sites that you don't want it to. And the last thing an owner needs is to rely on that advice and the next moment their dog is in like a serious medical emergency. So we really wanted to offer that like promise to people that, look, this is going through a really trusted site. We know what we're talking about. We've seen what others are talking about, and you can basically trust that.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense to me. I mean, there have been so many times I feel like in my life where you look for some sort of piece of information on the internet, and then you're looking through like Reddit, for example, or you're just trying to find like the most human answer or anything like that. And it just makes so much sense to me. I think it's a fantastic idea. And I'm sure, even though at this point it seems like things are going smoothly, you still said that there are things that get ironed out every now and then. There's still things that you want to add. There are still changes that you want to make. Can you talk about, the unexpected challenges that come when starting up your own, I guess, like tech product here with like a website, especially like with the integration of AI? What are some of the things, that you expected going in and were hurdles that you knew you had to overcome? And then what were some of the things that, were unexpected and sort of popped up on you that you could not have seen coming until you started the business?
Yeah, I think one of them was really, the biggest hurdle for me was how important trust and credibility were. I kind of knew they were sort of important, but I didn't realize until I realized that people are actually going on, and I can see that these people are spending time on these articles. And I get to understand people a bit better by knowing like where they click and stuff like that. And then I have a couple of other friends who own dogs, so I just show it to them and I go like, what do you think? And that was probably the biggest hurdle, to try and breach that barrier and talk to someone through that screen and say like, hey, you can trust this. And that trust really extended to how we applied everything. And the biggest factor in that was our AI. So one of the key things that I thought was a bit of a challenge, but I didn't realize how big of a challenge it would be, is that trust and safety in artificial intelligence. We've seen like across the industry, ChatGPT publishing some research papers, Claude with their constitutional AI, but it really is an insanely huge challenge, and especially for something like Dog Advisor, where we're offering an AI that has emergency guidance, which is a feature that in an emergency can offer you like quick advice to go through. It's absolutely critical it doesn't go wrong. So that was probably the biggest hurdle, because we had to design an entirely new safety framework exclusively for this. And that consisted of hours and hours of testing. And we even published all of this testing in a report that you can access like right now. And we really then went through every single layer of what kind of constitution are we giving this AI? What are the safety categories that we're assembling? So for example, if a user is asking a critical question and the AI is able to detect through natural language processing that it's actually an emergency, what kind of classification are we assigning it? What kind of safety restraints are we giving it? And what content can it go through? And that was really perhaps one of the most challenging aspects of building dogadvisor. Because look, we can't promise perfection, no one can, but we need to get as close to that as is humanly possible. And you can imagine, as someone who doesn't have a degree in AI or anything like that, I don't come from OpenAI, it was quite challenging, but I think we got through it.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear. I mean, that was one of the main questions. I feel like you just already answered it for me though, but was just like the integration of AI and like, the sort of the trusting / untrusting relationship that people can end up having with AI. I mean, it seems like in your case, it's working incredibly well and people are significantly benefiting from it, but it's such a thing, people hear AI and sometimes they can be scared, they're like, they only want the best for their dog, but it seems like you've done, sort of the hard work. And, as you mentioned, like you can literally see like within the filings, like just how accurate that would be. That makes total sense to me. So can you break down all the services within the app itself? I mean, you mentioned like the emergency services and like, the AI advice segment, but can you break down the services that the app provides? And especially like, just comparing it to where you've come from versus where you are now in terms of, on the app and the services that you do end up providing.
Yeah. So in terms of Max itself, which is our AI, it has a few really helpful things. So first of all, it's trained on every single one of the articles on dogadvisor that you can read. So one of the key things that you can do is at any point when you're reading an article, you can always ask it to clarify or expand a detail further. So to keep things really moving and make it really easy for dog owners, we try and keep our bullet points to a maximum of 2 lines. But there are always some people who see a point and they want to go a lot further. So what Max is able to do is it's able to pull the article that you're reading, understand what's there, and access our own filings where we've made slightly more detailed notes. And it's able to pull that and really give you a lot more insight into what you're reading. The other thing about the reading experience together with Max is really the aspect of personalization. And that was one of the key reasons we started Max. It was because I got an email from a user who said, look, I'm reading this article about feeding my dog, but I don't know how much exactly to feed my German Shepherd, say. And we really brought that in together and we said, look, Max is another tool that you can personalize the content you're reading. So if you're reading about, for example, a kind of leash for your dog, and you can input some characteristics about it and how he behaves, and it can help you understand like what's the best type of leash that you can have. Aside from that and the reading experience, you can ask basically any dog ownership question. So we have more than 150 articles, which means it knows a lot. So even your most curious questions that you can have, like can dogs dream, it can 100% answer that. And even beyond that, we were really thinking about how to make it super accessible and make it do more in those times when you need it. So first of all, it's able to speak virtually any language on the planet. So you can start a conversation in French, then translate to Spanish, and it will react to that dynamically. And it's also able to recognize how you speak, and it's able to understand your tone and intonation, as well as your English proficiency. So if it's able to detect that someone's speaking, it might sort of guess that maybe English isn't this person's first language. It will automatically try and adapt its responses to simplify them and make them easier to read. And then of course the final, perhaps the headline feature is emergency guidance. So sometimes you're abroad or it's midnight and you can't really access your vet really quickly, and you don't really trust Google or Reddit, and you can't really in that case. So we designed a feature that is emergency guidance, and at any point in time, if you have any kind of emergency, you can text help to Max and it will instantly pop up a quick questionnaire. You just answer as much of it as you can in that certain time frame, and it will be able to find the right solution for you. We had 4 cases where it saved the lives of dogs. The first one was when the dog actually ate chocolate, and Max was able to react to that and inform the owner to keep the dog cool, for example. That was one of the key things that he needed. And the owner asked, how do you keep your dog cool? And Max then pulled information from our article about summer and keeping your dog cool, and it was able to say, wrap your dog in a blanket and do this and make sure the blanket's wet. And then ultimately we got a message from the owner at the bit, which was, thank you, Max, you saved my dog. And that was probably one of the most like heartwarming moments of starting Dog Advisor, because I really felt that it was about user numbers for me. It kind of never was. It was about seeing that emotion that it brings people, and it was really spectacular to see Max like go through.
How do you come up with these new product ideas for the app? I mean, I feel like you have so much already here, and all these features that you just listed sound like fantastic to me. I mean, but you still mentioned that, you know, every now and then you want to add more, and you say that it's not complete. What else do you have in store? And also, like, how do you come up with more ideas for this thing that's always evolving?
Yeah, I think one of the key principles is, really, it's a question that I ask myself anytime I create a new feature. Does this help? Does this help the dog owner I'm like visiting Dog Advisor? And it was really a big challenge, because when you have like a great idea, you kind of want to rush to implement it. But I forced myself to slow down and really start considering, like, as things move, am I really going to implement this? And when I thought of Max, I was pretty like definite that, you know, this is going to help a lot of people. But that decision ultimately meant removing clutter, and it can be difficult when you've created something for a couple of months and you kind of feel like people aren't using it, so you have to remove it. And it was one of the key things we had initially. It's something we don't really share often, but when we really started Dog Advisor, we had articles, but we also had product recommendations that owners could use. And we felt it was a nice feature to have if you were, for example, reading about a dog bed and you could see like, oh, here's what we recommend. But we actually found that people weren't using it as much as we'd hoped. And it really led us back to that question of, does it help? And we found that it really doesn't help that much. So we did start phasing that out and rolling them out, and we did engage with our users, ask them to submit a couple of forms to tell us how they feel about it. And overwhelmingly, they said that actually the experience of reading the articles themselves was so great. They really weren't looking for advice on what to buy. They were just looking for advice more generally. So we applied that philosophy right down. And even when we're thinking about new features, we're really thinking about design as well. It's one of the key things that makes Dog Advisor so great compared to any other site you use. And we really do think about, if we're implementing this new feature, is it going to work like we expect it to? Because when we do launch that new feature, we really want you to not think about it. Like with emergency guidance, we never really stressed about it in the first place. To be honest, we built it in as a feature that we honestly never hoped anyone would use, but just in case, it's a nice to have. So we didn't really stress about it. And if you do have an emergency, Max will then pull up that feature, but it won't really notify you. And that's how we imagine Dog Advisor to work, as something that you just use and it just makes sense. Like, you don't need to think about it. And that's one of the key philosophies that we still have going forward when we're thinking about a new feature. Is this going to be obtrusive, or is it going to work in the background and it's just like magical?
That's interesting. And it's also like, you know, in our previous episode, I was interviewing this guy, Andrew Glantz, and he also runs like an app, but he talked about just like the integration of certain features and how like he put in a feature with the launch of the app that he thought everybody was going to use, and it ended up being like their least clicked on feature, and everybody hated it, and he ended up like removing it. But I think that it really goes to show, and I appreciate, you know, like the both of you being like vulnerable and sort of like discussing like people don't actually want your product, like certain aspects of your product sometimes, or like certain, you know, things within the app, and that, you know, that sort of constant feedback and conversation with customers, with users, is so important to young businesses, and it's really interesting to hear that. And one other thing, and I like to ask this to young entrepreneurs especially, is what does like your family think about this? What did your family think the first time you sort of talked about undergoing a project sort of this scale and of this size, especially, you know, as you mentioned, like, you're not a vet, you don't exactly have like a degree in AI or anything like that. What did they think, and how has their support, you know, sort of like changed, I suppose, over the past year or so?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I really didn't tell them when I was starting out. I kind of kept it under wraps. So it was kind of like a thing I did in my pastime. And then I was actually published in Investopedia's list of top 10 young entrepreneurs. And then I showed my dad, And then they found out about it. And since then they've been like incredibly supportive with it. And if there's ever a question I have like about which font looks better, I'll always address them and my friends want dogs, and then I'll address the users. But yeah, they've been incredibly helpful during the time. Yeah, I've tried to keep it sort of under wraps for as much as I could. Yeah, not to bother them too much with it, but they are incredibly supportive.
It's awesome. No, and that's funny to hear. I feel like that's also something I hear whenever I talk to some of the younger entrepreneurs. Like, I just kind of wanted to do it on my own. Like, this was a passion project. Like, as you mentioned, like, you have that great story with your friend and their dog, so it just makes like total sense that this would be something you're doing like for a friend, like as a friend, and that's like the first and foremost thing. And then it's kind of hilarious also that like you made top 10 young entrepreneurs list without like telling your family, and that's sort of like how how that's interesting. You already like proof of concept. You're like, you don't have to sort of like pitch the idea. You're like, it worked already. That's interesting and very funny. And this is another thing, just relating to like your age and just like the youth involved in all this. But how do you balance maintaining this huge app, taking interviews like this, like going and being published in these articles, and still maintaining, like that work-life balance of like hanging out with friends, going to school, doing whatever you want, just being a kid?
Yeah, I think it's one of the things it's one of the things that a lot of people struggle with, myself included. And I try and keep Dog Advisor as something I have like once every week, or if I have a bit more time, 2 or 3 times every week, and I dedicate an hour each to really work in those like burst sessions. And it also does really force me to focus on what matters most. And what that means is that every month or so, or 3 months, we can deliver some sort of groundbreaking major feature or a huge update to our articles. But I try to keep it sort of regular, but in smaller intervals.
Who are some entrepreneurs or business leaders that inspire you personally?
Steve Jobs.
Any reason why?
His attitude to design, and his attitude to building things really, really inspires me. Like, the quote, "Design is not just what it looks like and feels like, it's how it works," is really the kind of philosophy I take with Dog Advisor.
I like it. That's a new one. I love that question so much, because I really I'm building up like this list basically of just like all the variety of answers, and so like surprisingly, I think you're the first person to have said Steve Jobs. Actually, that's interesting. What's one fun fact about you that most people don't know?
I don't own a dog.
That actually caught me when you mentioned that. I was like, no way, this guy doesn't own a dog. That actually caught me off guard. That's interesting. Are you considering ever getting it? I think you mentioned earlier that you were actually.
Yeah, I am. I'm still trying to convince my parents, but obviously, living in London, it can be quite challenging in a flat to sort of take care of this thing whilst also studying in university applications. So, yeah, still hoping.
A lot on your plate, and to add a dog to that, but that's interesting. And if you could describe yourself in just one word, what would that be?
Passionate.
I like it. All right, next we're going to move into our 5 essential tips. What are your 5 essential tips for starting a business as a young person? 1,
solve an actual problem. A lot of people have like a personal issue, like for example, I'm struggling to open, I don't know, my bottle of orange juice. I'm going to make a new sort of way to open it. Think about if people are actually going to use it, and you'll probably have a lot of great ideas in your lifetime, but you really need to test that it's actually going to solve the problem. The second one is, has it already been done? So if it hasn't already been done, go first to market. Make sure it's as good as it can be, but I'm kind of a perfectionist myself, so I keep going, it can be a bit better, but just launch it straight away. And if the product you're thinking of already exists, how can you completely reinvent that to make it even better? Because you'll find that a lot of other businesses are all going to go through the exact same process, and no one really stops to think. So if you want to stand out, you really need to be that person who's thinking. The third thing is design, and it's probably the most important thing about Dog Advisor. It's the thing people love most. What is going to make you incredibly unique? And design is meant to convey all of that emotion and all the effort that you put into it. For example, in our site, we use like London green, which is kind of our signature color. And it's like a connection to our home, but also a connection to grass and dogs. And we also have those like fun touches like dogadvisor.dog is our domain, or a dog cursor when you move about the site. So yeah, really make sure your design stands out. The fourth one is team. Who are you going to work with on this? Are you going to go with it solo, which is what I did, but I did have a couple of friends who I asked around, and a couple of people who like generously donated their time to try and help me out. So do you have that network that you can fall back on? And if you don't, that's all right. Just start getting into those like networking events and meeting people on LinkedIn and things like that. Bless you. And the fifth one is probably keep going. So once you've launched it, like every week or month, just keep working on something new that people are going to really love, and don't let it like just sit.
I like it. I feel like that covers just like pretty much everything, you know, as a young person. I love this idea, you know, of like being first to market and being like sort of the first to strike. I mean, Dog Advisor in and of itself is such a unique platform, and I feel like you're the right person to sort of give that advice. It's a great way. You're also kind of our first guest to really integrate that AI into their small business, you know? And to me, like, it's such a vital thing to sort of grasp and like take advantage of, like going into the future, especially for young people, because it's just going to be integrated into your life basically for, you know, for the foreseeable future at least. So I think like that's fantastic advice. Next up, we have just sort of, you know, a question about branding and advertising is, what are the 3 tips about, you know, branding or advertising that every entrepreneur needs to know?
1, identity. Have a unique thing that makes you special. Every single company in the world is going to keep going like, oh, we're the best. And for example, if you work in like, if you're starting an IT startup, all you'll see around the place are just stats and stats and stats and stats. So you need to create your own brand identity. How are you pitching yourself? For Dog Advisor, that identity really can be summarized in one word, like friendliness. So we really wanted to convey that, not only through our design, but also our marketing. And it really comes through because we try and talk to the person that we're telling ourselves to. The second one is show, not tell. And that's one of the key ones. I would say, like, I could go about and spend, let's say, $1,000 and advertise about how great Max is. But I won't, because I want it to speak for itself. So the key thing that I'm pitching is actually, look, I'm not going to tell you it's the best, but I'm going to tell you that it saved 4 people, the lives of 4 dogs. I am going to tell you that we spent months and months working on them, and I'm going to tell you, look, this is one of the safest pet AIs, and it is also the world's first ever dog saving specialized AI. So I'm going to show you that, and then I'm going to let you try it out. And if you like it, that's great, and I'll welcome you on board. And if you don't, if you have any feedback, like connect on LinkedIn, give me an email. I'd love to hear it, because that's how Max started.
I like it. I like this emphasis, you know, just on sort of like the connection and like that customer interaction that you keep bringing up in terms of like, oh, like you can always hit me on LinkedIn, you can always send me an email. It's just so important, I feel like, for the growth of small business. And like that's what it really is like customer first, because that's really what I feel like is at the heart of Dog Advisor, you know. And it's just based on everything you're saying, it's just that personal connection and like really wanting to make, you know, a change in someone's life who's like already going through a big change and like having this big sort of transformation like by getting a dog, which is such a huge responsibility. So I think it's a fantastic idea. You know, so we've looked at the humble beginnings, Dog Advisor. We've looked sort of at the modern business. Now we're going to look forward to the future. Where do you see Dog Advisor in the next, you know, 5, 10, 15, however many years?
I probably see it as being like the one place to go to. So as we're going to grow and as we're going to add more articles and as we're going to sort of push it out to even more people, we really want it to be the one place that you can actually trust, that you know isn't owned by like some huge corporate conglomerate, and you know that it's something that people are actually working on incessantly. And that's one of the key things that I think we want to really stress going forward. And to keep building out our article array, to keep building out Max in the background so you really don't notice how great it's going to become eventually. But yeah, I think that would probably be our direction.
I like it. Are there any new sort of features or projects that you're working on the app that you can give us sort of a sneak peek or a teaser into?
Yeah, I think one of the ones that we're looking at is personalization for Max responses. So say you have a dog, a certain breed, weight, etc. you might be able to one day upload that to Max, and it might give you, say, a keyword that you can use. And the next time you ever start a conversation, you just hand over that keyword and it instantly knows what you're talking about. Because we really do care about user privacy. And one of the key things that we're doing is saying, like, you don't need to create an account. We don't really want your email or anything like that. We'll just give you this passcode that other people can have. And boom, we know your dog. It works like magic.
That's awesome. I mean, that's just a great way to describe this whole project. It's magic. It makes so much sense. And what is your ultimate vision, for your brand and entrepreneurship journey? When it's all said and done, looking back on it, what do you want your legacy to have been with Dog Advisor?
I think probably helping as many people as I can. For me, Dog Advisor isn't really about like the money aspect of it, anything like that. I just want to see as many people use it and just have a great journey with their dog. Because like you might get many dogs in your lifetime, but your dog will really only have you. And I really want to make sure that I can do my part to make that a great experience.
I love it. I knew you'd say something like that. I knew it would be like people first, but that's awesome. That's just a great stance to have. And this is, sort of my last big question here is, what is your all-time favorite or most fun or most gratifying moment that you've had in your career up to this point? And you've given us tons of great moments already, so feel free to recycle anything. But, if you could just pick one as your top moment looking back thus far, what would it be?
I think probably the top moment would be, when Max first saved a dog's life. I think since then we've had a lot of greats. I think we're the only pet company in the world to have won 4 or 3 awards in 1 month. We've obviously been in a lot of really huge news sources, but I think nothing beats the fact that we can actually say, look, we saved a dog's life. I think it's pretty awesome, and it's probably my number one moment.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I mean, as I mentioned before, I'll use the same words. It's just like, it has to be the most gratifying feeling. I mean, it's such an amazing proof of concept. I mean, it's something that you led with today. You said that, Max has saved 4 dog lives up until this point. And I think like the fact that that's one of the first things that you mentioned just proves like how important it is. And like just proof of concept, like just the importance of this app and of apps like this that can, really help first-time dog owners and people with any real, emergency situations. So that, I mean, it's fantastic. It totally makes sense that that's your top moment. And that's pretty much all I have for you question-wise today. Do you want to do any, quick shout-outs or tell us where we can find or download some of your amazing products?
Yeah, sure. You can find me on LinkedIn. Just search Deni Darenberg and I should appear, hopefully number 1. You can visit Dog Advisor on dogadvisor.dog. And if you want to get in touch, you can email me at deni.d@dogadvisor.dog.
Awesome. Well, all right, Deni, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. Thanks for making us part of your hour with Dog Advisor. I really appreciate how thoughtful your answers were. I love the idea for this product. I'm 100% going to download it for my big fluffy friend in the other room over here. I hope you have a great day. I wish you the best in upcoming university applications, school, and all that.
Thank you, Dorian. It was a pleasure.